You won't let me do anything. I feel like I'm in a prison. You don't know how good you have it. You should just listen.
I hate you. I fucking hate you.
Ethan, you are not going to speak to me like that in my own house. His mom reached for her son's wrist and grabbed a hold of it before her husband pulled her away from him.
God damn it, both of you knock this shit off right now.
He's getting that from you, Scott.
Oh, for fuck. Really, Rebecca? Now?
Ethan disengaged and charged down a narrow, dull hallway for his room, every anger-tainted step searing into their odorous beige carpeting.
Ethan, get back here right now. You don't walk away from us when we're talking to you.
His dad's voice was loud, but he refrained from shouting. He couldn't recall a time the man had ever yelled at him. Even in the throes of angst, this all felt different, wrong. The young teen ripped his door from its frame and slammed it behind him, which shook the bumpy wall as they continued to bicker with each other. Ethan's appearance ran counter to his age. Frown lines belonging to someone much more worn down covered his young face. He dropped to his knees, grabbing something from under his bed. His expression contorted into a volatile blend of seething bitterness and profound sadness, while he hurriedly jammed belongings into a maroon backpack. No, let him sulk in his room. Maybe he can think about how he's been treating us. His mother's words crawled into his head, muffled by the thin barrier. Ethan squinted at the bag and thought intently about what to take, but his mind was clouded now. He sloshed around in a haze, stuffing any remaining items in reach into his bag, then stood up and thrashed it against his bed. The blankets and sheets were wrinkled violently as he repeatedly hit them with the backpack, unhealthily exhausting his frustration. Tears swelled under his sunken brown eyes, then quickly streamed down his pale cheeks while he slipped the bag on and grabbed a green phone on the dresser at his back. He pressed its home button, and the cracked display blinked to life. 4:09 p.m. Ethan wiped the wetness from his skin, pocketed the device, and headed for his window. Gripped by intense emotion, everything felt so much more vibrant, even in this dim, messy room. The boy's despondent attitude starkly contrasted his colorful dwelling. Blue walls splattered with stickers, posters, and printed images of cartoon characters. Passions he felt he was rapidly outgrowing. Overwhelmed and slumped over anxiously, he tucked his fingertips beneath the windowpane's cool plastic lip and pulled it open, shuddering as the coolness of fall grasped for him. The teen slipped one leg out, straddling the sill for a moment while he looked back inside. This was a chance to turn around, but he couldn't. He'd already made up his mind. He would take off for a while, make them worry. Maybe then they'd finally get it. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Rebecca was slumped over at their weathered kitchen table, her hand wrapped to cover her eyes while she wept quietly. Her husband rubbed his left temple, seated diagonally from the woman across the chipped chestnut surface. I mean, what do we do? I try to be understanding. I really do. I know he's just a kid, but God, he makes it so hard. Scott watched his wife silently, unsure of how to respond.
Let him cool off. We won't get anywhere with a shouting match.
I don't mean right now. I mean every other day. We're just supposed to live on pins and needles for the next 4 years?
Hey,
Scott uttered as he leaned forward and placed his hand over Rebecca's on the table.
We'll make it through.
Rebecca shook her head side to side. I hope so. Cars flew past, noise rushing through Ethan's head with each blur while he pedaled his bike hard over gravel on the road's shoulder. He breathed heavily, his bloated backpack striking him with every divot in the ground. Rocks skidded out from under its ridged tires when he came to a stop. A ringing interrupted the handful of looping pop-punk and metal songs he was able to buy. He fished around his pocket for the device and freed it to examine the screen. Mom. That contact sent a pulse through Ethan's heart, reminding him he was still alive. They surely knew he'd left by now. He punched the red decline button, and the music resumed. but he pulled out his white earbuds to take a short break from the traveling. Cars continued blazing by him while he walked his bike to a decrepit wooden fence line that bordered wild, natural terrain. What sounded like water flowing nearby piqued his interest. It struck him as good respite right now, and prompted Ethan to prop his bike on the moss-blanketed wooden beam. It nearly crumbled when he bumped it, half rotten inside despite a firm-seeming exterior. He recoiled as pieces fell away, but quickly recovered and set out in search of that inviting prospect. Bushy ground squelched beneath his sneakers, his twigs cracked, and he ruffled bushes stumbling through the unmaintained forest. The road was still quite visible, and the wide open sky above it, untainted by buildings. But Ethan paid the scene no mind, singularly focused on his goal. Pieces of their argument still dominated the teen's thoughts. We get worried when you hide in your room all day. You keep talking back to it. He shook his head while the noise of the water grew louder, each step clarifying its direction. A rich scent of pine and soil filled the teen's nose, complemented by a strangely sweet aroma somewhere nearby. Ethan's brow furrowed, enticed by that sudden arrival, but he persisted toward his goal. One hand pulled him around a rough tree, scraping bits of wood off onto his palm as he laid eyes on it. The river, at last. A sigh of relief overcame him, relaxing his tense shoulders while the teen stepped up to the bank. He knelt down, faint sounds of birds chirping somewhere above the tree cover, and bugs chittering. Lost in the modest stream's wavering, he reached forward to wash his hands off. He winced at the cool water. Those moments back home replayed again and again, caught in the present. It stalled the teen's recollection, temporarily moving anything earlier to beyond his grasp. Why didn't they understand? Or try to, at least. They were always picking at him. How he acted, dressed, the things he listened to, the friends he hung out with. Nothing was ever good enough for them. A whisper danced forth from the woods, unheard to him as he observed his wiggling reflection. He wiped off his hands and checked his phone. Barely any service this far to the town's edge, but lingering on his lock screen was a missed call from his mom, accompanying several frenzied texts. Ethan offered no comment, but a light quiver of his lips spoke for him. The teen slowly looked up, hearing a different sound now. One that felt ever present. A humming, not electrical, but distinctly human. He glanced around, touch freaked out, but the noise quickly soothed him. There was an angelic quality to it that released his frowned expression without him realizing. His spit went down like needles as he stood, rotating to get a better angle on the hum. Steadily he walked downstream, following the flowing liquid, leaving behind his bike, while that haunted melody came near. He studied the darkening sky before his phone, seeing its bright display offer a few minutes past 5. Worry and uncertainty fought for control of his face as something large and foreign entered view. That humming was loud now, close, as he examined a gaping maw protruding from the earth, big enough to stand up in. Dug into the side of a hill, on the water's opposite side, the mouth of a culvert, draining gently into the river. The noise clattered around a dark interior, barely visible even here in fading daylight, before it escaped. Not far from his back, cars still drove by with dropping frequency. Ethan took a few more tepid steps to peer in, gripped by fear, when the humming ceased. Hello? A feminine voice asked from shadow. Her tone sounded young, almost nervous. Ethan's eyes were wide, but in some bizarre way he felt sick, not relieved, but transferred over to some other paralyzing feeling of discomfort. That tension had been broken, replaced now by encircling emotions from all reaches of his mind. Wordlessly, he exhaled and tried to steady himself. Is somebody in there? Well, of course. I don't see anybody else around. That voice clung to the darkness, just barely beyond where the light terminated. Something skulked there, waiting patiently, observing and processing, seeking and understanding. To Ethan, now, it was merely words. "Why are you in that pipe?" The voice retorted with a quiet giggle, a smile plainly obvious through its intonation. It held back a touch, playfully. "Why are you this far out of town?" Ethan stared into the maw, stupefied. "I know why I'm hanging out in this pipe. Do you know why you're out here?" "I like to ride around and explore." "That explains the backpack, I guess. I like coming out here most days to get away from everything." He listened to her words. They were calming, dissolving that stress, that anguish. He almost couldn't remember why he'd been so upset. "That's cool, but you just hang out in dark pipes all day?" "Believe me, I know it's not, super normal. My dad probably thinks I'm, like, sacrificing animals or whatever." Her dad? "But it's peaceful out here. You know what a goth is?" Ethan shook his head and replied with a subdued no. "That's sort of my style. Dark hair, dark clothes, dark makeup, the whole thing. I've got a real mean vibe to me. With the pale skin, I think it freaks people out." "Well, that doesn't all sound bad. I mean, you're different. Different can be good." "Yeah, people just don't get me. I listen to these bands, like metal, punk stuff. My parents, they don't like it. I don't know why, really. It's just music. They're always criticizing me and telling me I can't do things. I hate it. They're so... Yeah? I just hate them sometimes." "I know how that feels. My dad can be a lot. Ever since my mom left, he thinks every little bad thing that happens is his fault. Me dressing like this, he takes it personally, like he got stuck with me and he failed." Ethan folded his arms, noticing how late it was getting. "He can be pretty useful some days." He nodded along, but a flash of regret blitzed Ethan's mind momentarily as he recalled his parents. "Wait a minute. I just realized I don't even know your name." "Ethan." He readily volunteered that information. Something unquantifiable about her intrigued him, and it was nice to finally be talking to somebody who got him. "Cool. I'm Hannah." "Hannah. Nice to meet you. Are you like, in high school, or?" "I'm 15, so kind of forced to be. How old are you?" "Oh, 14. Well, it's getting kind of late. I think I probably need to start heading home." "Me too. My dad would kill me if he knew I was out late talking to cute boys." A shock ran through his chest from her words. "But maybe don't mention me to your parents. I don't want them to be, like, mean to you or whatever. I know it can feel like us versus them sometimes." He nodded. "Maybe we can meet up again tomorrow, and I can actually see you." She laughed with disheartening sourness. I don't know. Mystery's kind of my thing. If you saw my ghostly face in the sun, you'd probably think I was lame." "No way." "I'll see what I can do, but my dad might want to meet you first. He's pretty strict about the boys I hang out with. Wants to make sure there's nothing funny happening." "Trust me, I'm the least funny guy you'll ever meet. Honest." "Well, Ethan, we'll be waiting right here tomorrow." Ethan departed in a haze, and an indeterminate amount of time later stumbled from the brush and moss back onto the roadside gravel. He pulled his bike off its resting spot and mounted up. Wow. An older girl calling him cute? What was happening? As the teen returned to town, aimed for his crummy home, a A sense of excitement invigorated him like never before. Carefully, Ethan crawled into his bedroom through the cracked window, accidentally trampling the backpack he'd tossed in first. He dragged his leg in while he heard shuffling coming from the living room. The walls were thin, yet they muddied that noise well. He listened for a moment, before rushing to shut his window. Behind him, the door to his bedroom swung open. Ethan could feel a piercing, ice-cold stare collide with his back. He turned to see his mother standing in the doorway, a weary look dragging down her face. They both stood in silence for a couple seconds, waiting for the other to say something. He exhaled quietly. "Dinner's in the kitchen." "Okay." He vanished around the wall. The teen's door left ajar while his heartbeat slowed. Why hadn't she lit into him? Partly he expected to get ripped to shreds coming back, but the stoicism she presented unsettled him even more than shouts would frighten. Their house was small, but not cramped, just big enough to feel empty with the lack of care put into it. Rebecca and Ethan sat alone at that worn dining table, thick barrier between them while they ate. Everywhere beyond the table was soaked in muddy darkness. A soft, yellow light lit them from above, diffused through its plastic cover. The living room, the kitchen. It was dim now as the sun lowered, leaving them both feeling boxed in together. "Where's Dad?" She glanced up at Ethan from her plate, appearing stern. "Your father is eating in the garage again so he can work on his projects." Her words stuck to the front of his mind like bugs to a windshield. "Where'd you go today?" Again, her eyes raised to him. This time, they were markedly less solemn. "I'm not stupid, Ethan. You left the house after you talked back to me and Dad. Where'd you go?" He negotiated, mouthing off once more, to keep her off his back. But a deeper piece of himself talked him down. "I rode around for a while." He didn't know if she'd buy it, but he wasn't going to mention that girl he talked to. "And you ignored my call." "I didn't know you called. I didn't have service for a while." She set her fork down with a clank, the noise startling both of them, but causing Ethan to jump a bit. "Shouldn't run off like that. What if something bad happened? You got hurt or hit by a car? You can't call us and we don't know where you are." Ethan offered no response as his mother raised her voice. He figured it was better to simply endure so late in the day. "I don't appreciate this kind of behavior, Ethan, and I don't enjoy yelling at you. Doesn't seem like it." As soon as those words left his mouth, a wave of regret crashed into him. Rebecca looked visibly upset, but pulled herself back from the edge. "Ethan, when you finish eating, you can go to your room for the rest of the night and think about how you're treating us." Before his mom could finish speaking, he pushed the chair away from their table. It scraped along stained tiles before he stood up and walked toward the hall. As her son moved out of sight, he heard his door shut loudly. Rebecca leaned back in her seat and rubbed her eyes. On the bus ride to school the following morning, that girl occupied Ethan's mind. Hannah. She was a bit odd, hanging out in a drainpipe, but she seemed so cool. If he could impress her, he'd finally have someone who understood him. He kept an eye out at school, looking around and listening acutely the entire day for anyone who resembled Hannah. Other classmates spoke behind him, at his sides as he passed. Nobody sounded like her. He assumed that if she lived around here, they'd go to the same school. But as the hours dragged on and still no voice pinged his recognition, he began to figure that maybe she was from out of town. As soon as Ethan stepped off the bus after school, he ran for his bike. Quickly, he rushed to the far end of town, along the highway. That thicket came into view. He hopped off, eager to speak with Hannah again as he waded through brush and twigs and moss. The teen followed that river downstream, finally returning to the culvert. From across water, he peered into the black abyss, hopeful to hear her voice once more, but nothing came. "Hello? Hannah, are you here?" he asked, craning his neck up to see into the raised drainage pipe. Ethan fished around for his phone, tapping its flashlight on and aiming it at the pipe. The weak light offered little visibility into the dark maw, which disappointed him. Hannah? Several minutes passed with no answer. Hesitantly, he began to wander away, dropping his phone back into a pocket. But a faint noise snagged his attention from the pipe. He turned back, when a new voice sent a shudder through his core. "Excuse me, son." Paralyzed with fear, he wasn't sure what to do or say. His mind spun, slipped when it passed over recollection of yesterday's conversation. "Come back where I can see you, Ethan." His heartbeat quickened, and he obliged, a deeper part of himself unsure why he followed its order. Slowly, he stepped back in front of the pipe, waiting for that voice to speak again. "You're the boy my daughter talked to." The voice was performative, almost intimidating. In some ways, it reminded him of his own dad, far more cold. Yes, sir? You told me you'd want to meet me?" He chuckled from the shadows. His voice unnerved Ethan in a way that Hannah's hadn't. Ethan swallowed, spit scratching his throat while her dad continued to speak. "Sir, I like it. So, are you going to formally introduce yourself?" Ethan? My name's Ethan."
Speak with confidence, boy. I know I can sound stern, but I'm always welcoming to people.
Ethan nodded nervously in agreement.
You can call me Mr. Brannon.
He muttered something indiscernible after he said his name, but Ethan's mind was swirling too swiftly to catch it.
Tell me, Ethan, are you a good person to be hanging around my daughter? Or would you just brainwash her more than she's already been?
The teen was caught off guard, confused by his question. "Oh, I wouldn't brainwash anybody, sir. I think she just wants to do more things for herself."
Is that so? You trying to tell me how to raise my daughter?
Ethan's chest was flooded with a sense he'd made a grave mistake.
Relax, boy, I'm just messing with you. I know you wouldn't dream of that.
Swaths of Ethan's psyche still felt entangled in the voice's echoing growl, yet now he experienced a sense of reassurance at its words. Speaking to this man, no more than a stranger, felt distinctly different from his parents or teachers. Despite the man's dour demeanor, he seemed oddly comforting. There was an inherent sense of authority present the teen dared not question. He squirmed for a few moments before that voice once more slithered from the well of black inside the pipe to ensnare him.
Hannah tells me you have a difficult home life, that your parents are a frequent problem.
Flashes pulsed in Ethan's mind while he searched for a response. His mom and dad were, well, they were who they were. But even still, he was uncomfortable with airing his familial strains with an adult. After all, it was embarrassing, and Hannah's dad might not get it like she did. We argue from time to time, but I think that's normal. I'm sure you and Hannah disagree on stuff. Ethan stared in the darkness, his eyes straining to make out any visible shapes, while he breathlessly awaited Brannon's answer.
Ethan, you poor boy. Your folks shouldn't be like that to you.
Like what?
It's not normal for people to argue like that. You don't deserve to be treated that way.
But
They've probably convinced you that it's just how things are, too. That the screaming and bickering will solve anything. A healthy relationship leaves no place for arguing.
Overwhelmed by the voice's professions, Ethan's eyes fluttered. Suddenly, he was being asked to reconsider years of his own life, spent believing there would be a way out from under his mom and dad. A more resolute way to end all the conflict. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe this was all he had. Maybe they were all he had.
Tell me this. What do your parents do?
My mom works part-time at an office or someplace. My dad's a contractor, but he's always busy in the garage.
The garage?
He stays out there late, working on things he doesn't want us involved in.
You know what? I'm proud of you, Ethan.
His heart dropped out of his chest at those words. Whispers of them had passed by from other kids' parents at school, but never him. The wires of his mind were alight with activity, and yet empty-handed. He couldn't recall ever feeling that. Why?
Because you've done what most kids your age can't. You've spotted the problem.
Problem? Like a deer in headlights, Ethan was held captive by Brandon's speech. The sun toiled in the sky, unbeknownst to him as he was subjected to a stream of pure poison.
Most kids can't even put the pieces on the board, but it's right in front of you. Your mom spending so much time at home. It's bound to lead to strife being cooped up so often. And your dad neglecting his duties as a parent, all to isolate himself.
Those words were obviously venomous to Ethan. The independent part of him wanted to shut it down, tell Hannah's dad off, that he didn't get to talk about his parents like that. But the part mired in bitterness and frustration reveled in it. It was finally scratching an unreachable itch.
And these projects, what are they?
I don't know, it's locked. He tells us not to go in there.
It's your right to go in there. It's your house too. Aren't you even a little curious?
Yeah, but I can't just
go in there after he goes to bed and find out for yourself. He shouldn't be keeping secrets from his family. That kind of behavior is unacceptable in my house.
He seemed to linger on that word, as if waiting for something that never came.
Find out what's in there, and bring it back here so we can talk about it.
Ethan hesitated and scratched at his arm.
The only way you're getting my approval to hang around Hannah is if you man up and do this, Ethan. For yourself. You deserve to know what's in there.
Unsteadily, he nodded as something red faintly glistened from the darkness. That was new. No light had ever escaped it. It alluded to a shape, yet offered nothing more, as Ethan's mind skipped over the tiny pinpricks of crimson-tinted shine. He offered resentment-laden silence to his parents upon his return home. The atmosphere of their house was downtrodden, perhaps more than ever. A strange energy hung over them all now, as Ethan contemplated breaking into the garage. Was he really going through with it? He had to, right? It wasn't fair to keep secrets. Brandon was that right, at least. But about the rest? The teen lay in bed, his gaze fixated on the dim ceiling as the sun clocked out for the day. Swallowed by low light, he listened to his parents while they spoke beyond his room, awaiting their departure. He blinked, and time seemed to snap forward. 2:11 a.m. Carefully, Ethan sat up and stared into his door's smooth grain. It had to be done. Slowly, their door crept open, a faint hallway light bleeding into the abyss of his parents' room. An old digital clock acted as a sentinel on their dresser, casting a dull red glow into the air. He got down on his knees and crawled in, reaching for the jeans his dad had abandoned on the floor. He dragged them close, startled by his parents tossing and turning. Quietly, he checked a pocket, feeling cool metal brush his skin. A ring of keys slipped out, and discreetly he backed out before pulling the door shut. Ethan stopped at its latch and headed for their garage. Key after key, he met denial and began to worry these weren't right, until one turned the lock. A pang of fear and excitement rose in him. He stepped into the icy space. Old machinery, big and small, cluttered the room. Wiring was pulled from many, interspersed with scrap metal. Tools of all sorts covered narrow countertops, while screws and nails dotted them like bullet holes. Large grayish-white stains smeared over unfinished concrete floor as he approached a drafting table, suffocated with papers, books, sticky notes, and drawings. It was frightening, seeing such a scene. He looked closer at the surface, examining the stacks. Ethan stared at pages obsessively filled with drawings of symbols he'd never seen before, languages and words he didn't recognize, transcribed in a tongue beyond his limited understanding. Repeating patterns, structure, form. It struck him clearly as speech, but nothing that felt human. Over and over and over, the same icons and sketches inked onto paper. Plastered on one wall, crude depictions of figures, each one a uniquely misshapen silhouette. Something otherworldly he couldn't understand. Yet it seemed familiar somehow, buried within layers of disturbing instability. Was this what his dad spent hours on after work? Drawing all this? Making all this? He glanced at those machines as he grabbed a book from the table. Like so much in here, their purpose and origin were well beyond him. Ethan left the cavernous space, locking it contemplatively. Gently, his parents' door hinged open, and he deposited the keys back into their pocket. A sharp exhale passed his lips when he laid back down. Unsettled by those images and ravings, the teen couldn't bring himself to open the book he'd taken any more than he already had. A brief check to confirm it was indeed related was plenty for him. How would Mr. Brannon react to this? Thoughts of Hannah crossed Ethan's mind as he struggled to fall asleep. What might she look like, he wondered. Flashing constructions arose from the muddy depths of his subconscious to offer suggestions, which so late at night went unacknowledged. His heart raced during class. That journal melted a hole through fabric, radiating negative energy and volatile emotions Ethan hadn't fully confronted, but its presence weighed heavily on the young boy as he worked. Brush crunched under his black sneakers on approach to the culvert. No matter how much he walked this path, it sounded like there was always something new to snap or crush. He gulped, staring into that abyss again, journal in hand. It felt hot to the touch, still marred by questions of its true nature. Ethan slipped his bag off his shoulder and unzipped it, revealing a Ziploc bag big enough to hold the item. He stuffed it in and sealed the plastic, thinking for a moment. He raised his arm back, debating whether to throw the journal over the water, but he couldn't. He needed it to be seen by somebody else. He called out, to no answer. Several more shouts confirmed it, so he set the bagged journal on the ground by his feet, lying in a bare patch of dirt, partially encompassed by his shoe prints as he stared down. Ethan twiddled his fingers on his lap below their dining table, while Rebecca moved through the kitchen. That same sickly light lit his face as he drifted in thought. A disheartening aroma from food he didn't care for wafted over, further shrinking the boy inward.
So, Ethan, where have you been going after school every day?
Instantly his face swelled with heat, and his hands began to tingle. He stared ahead for what felt like hours, churning his mind to find an excuse she would believe. He couldn't know about Hannah and her dad. If they found out, he'd never get to talk with her again.
I get my bike when I get home and go ride around for a while. Yeah, you said that last time I asked. You have to tell me where you're going and how long you'll be gone. And have your phone with you so you can answer me if I call you.
He sat quiet, head tilted to eye the table's weathered surface.
Did you hear me?
Faintly, a ringing noise reverberated through his ears.
That's non-negotiable, Ethan. You're 14 years old. I know you think you've got everything figured out, that you're old enough to know better than your parents, but that is not how this works.
His mind started to cloud, slowly being filled with recollection of his conversation with Hannah, thoughts of all her different faces. All he wanted to do was be with her right now, to talk to her about all this. Hell, he'd even settle for talking with her dad. Even he saw this for what it was. A lock clicked open, which snagged the boy's attention. His father stepped in from that den of madness, the darkness at his back pleading to follow as the door shut.
Hey, have either of you seen...
He observed the tense moment and reconsidered his line of questioning, suddenly clear-minded.
Never mind.
Rebecca leaned over the faded cream tile on an island countertop to study Ethan's unnerved look and solemn demeanor. Ethan, your dad and I have been discussing trying some alternate education for you. We don't think you're getting any real value out of going to school, given how you've been acting. We've decided it would be best to have you do homeschooling here. That way you don't need to be caught up in anything negative or stressful. You can just focus on the work and... Her words collided with Ethan's core, disorienting him, even sitting down. A long-winded speech distorted around him, while her words dissolved in his head. His memory smeared into a hazy blur, and before he knew it, he was on his bike. Brisk late-morning wind gusted over him while he blazed toward the highway leaving town. They had to talk. He hoped to God Mr. Brandon wasn't around. Or if he was, he'd let Hannah talk with him. He desperately needed her right now. Someone to tell him this could all be worked through, because his own mind dug a deeper and deeper pit of despair and worry with every ticking minute. Ethan ducked below branches, snapping things underfoot as he rushed his normal path to the culvert. He stumbled forth, stepping toward the exposed earth where he'd left that journal. Now only that Ziploc bag remained. Beside it, a series of human handprints were visible in the compressed topsoil. He stared at them for a moment, unsure of what he was seeing, yet simultaneously mortified. Before his mind could process it, a familiar feminine voice wryly shuddered from the culvert's dripping maw.
I haven't seen you around in a few days.
Your dad's been here the past couple times I've come. He seems kind of cool. Whatever word he wanted to use, he avoided. They might have had a contentious relationship on occasion, but he was still her dad. How have you been?
I've been better, but it's nice to talk with you again. My dad told me all about what he said to you.
Really?
Yeah, sorry about him. Even on his best days, he's a lot. I'm sorry if he made you feel intimidated or uncomfortable.
No, it's... We talked about my parents, and he gave me a lot to think about.
Don't let him hear that, because he'll never forget it.
That journal's outline had been burned into Ethan's psyche. Rippling waves tormented every waking second, reminding him of its existence. Tepidly, he broached her dad's odd request. Your dad wanted me to get him something from my house? A thing my dad's been working on? What did he do with it?
I don't know. He didn't mention any journal or whatever, but that definitely sounds like something he'd do. He's odd like that, in case you haven't noticed.
Wait, when did he mention it was a journal? Had he mentioned that to her? She continued to speak while his mind spun, desperate to recall a moment where he'd said what he gave to her dad. But it was blank as far as Ethan could tell. His head had become so entangled with that item. It was getting harder to feel out where he ended, and its presence began. Suddenly, he cut her off, amidst another topic. Wait, how did you know it was a journal? There were a few long seconds of silence emanating from the culvert. In that time, Ethan witnessed two faintly visible red dots deeper, much, much deeper, in the pipe, which lit up a section of his own brain with alarms he now willingly ignored.
My dad said that's what you gave to him? Is that not correct?
Yeah, but you said you didn't know about it.
I didn't know what he did with it. He brought it up last night, but I wasn't in a mood to talk, and he didn't say where he put it.
Oh. Ethan suddenly deflated like a punctured balloon, slumping forward into a stoop, before he raised his head back up. Can I ask why your dad also hangs out at this pipe? More silence followed. Evidently, she was caught off guard by his bluntness. He could hear a hushed, steady breathing from where she presumably stood. Then she let out a disappointed sigh.
It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. I don't want you to think less of me, okay?
I won't. I promise. Her breathing grew shaky as she began.
I used to come to this pipe a lot. During most of the year, spring, summer, into fall, it's all dried up and unused. But a few months ago, my dad lost his job. My mom died a few years ago, so we couldn't afford the house anymore. And those assholes foreclosed on it.
Her voice wavered a bit while she spoke.
It's been really, really hard on both of us. I know we don't have the best relationship, but he tries. So we're staying here until he can find somewhere to rent. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have to hear all this.
Her words oscillated between two tones. In one dimension, it sounded wistful, but in another, it sounded as though she was speaking through a grin. No, it's alright. I can't even imagine what you've been through. I'm glad you're so understanding. A few seconds passed while Ethan stared into blackness with regret. That redness appeared larger now, perhaps closer. They shimmered lightly too, like light on water. Still, it was hard to make out against the pitch darkness, yet it captured his curiosity all the same.
Do you want to come in? I guess I can finally show you where we live.
I don't know. Maybe you and your dad can come over to my house? That way you wouldn't have to feel embarrassed.
Ethan, if you want to get to know me better, I want you to see me for who I really am. That includes how we have to live. My dad always says you can't hide the bad parts of yourself in a relationship.
Relationship? Ice flooded his veins when that word left the culvert. Well, I have to think about it first. Maybe ask my parents if I can...
Are you gonna let them decide what you get to do for the rest of your life, Ethan? You're old enough to make these choices on your own. It's clear your parents are just holding you back.
Like a tidal wave, her claims crashed over the teen's mind. Every time he went home, it was like stepping on a bear trap. Nothing but misery night after night, waiting to be rebuked or punished for just wanting some independence. With this final threat of homeschooling, it was becoming clearer what they were doing. You know, they want me to do this homeschool thing. They think keeping me there all day will help somehow. But they refuse to listen to me, Ethan stated, averting his eyes to not frustrate her further.
That's what I'm talking about, Ethan. Everyone can see what they're doing to you except for you.
Realization prickled at his hot skin, turning his face bright red. Slowly, his gaze returned to her. Those red dots were much bigger now.
When you go home, you need to put them in their place. Tell them this homeschooling idea is terrible, and that they're trying to rob you of your life. Tell them how you really feel.
God damn it, Ethan, I am done with this behavior. You have done nothing but disrespect and disobey your mom and I, even after all we try and do to help you. You're doing the homeschool program whether you want to or not. End of discussion.
Scott's words inflamed Ethan's resentment and simultaneously humiliated him. Hannah saw them for who they were immediately. Stubborn, uncaring, unwilling to listen or change. Their voices rattled the walls while they continued to bicker with one another as Ethan's head pressed into his pillow. The black of night overtook his vision, save for two motes of red that drew nearer and nearer during slumber. Ethan shrugged his jacket back up onto his shoulders while trees and brush parted. The culvert once more entered view, its entrance smothered in endless darkness. Light had yet to fully occupy the sky, casting dimly into this hidden place. Their words rattled around his head on approach, grasping fruitlessly for the teen's more reasonable side. Before he could stand in front of the drain, her voice graced his ears.
You're back early.
I needed to see you.
Well, you're here. What's going on?
Just more shit from my parents. Like always.
Did you tell them how you felt?
Yeah. And they grounded me.
Oh, I'm sorry. You still came to see me?
I don't care. They won't listen and they don't care about me. All we do is fight, so I might as well do what I want.
Exactly.
The voice paused for a moment, waiting to see if Ethan would continue before it put forth a gleeful question.
So, do you want to come in? Finally see me up close?
Her words broke Ethan's mind, splintered into two. One half, logic and reason desperately voicing pleas that went unheard or ignored. That second half now stood isolated, charged with emotion, and motivated enough to act on such an ill-advised choice. A series of rocks sat exposed in the river's gentle flow, flat enough to hop across. His shoes landed firmly on all but the final one, where he slipped and dipped a foot into the water. Sweet laughter crawled from the culvert while redness washed over Ethan's face. Carefully, he hauled himself up into the pipe's unhinged jaw. As he stood now in its opening, face to face with a wall of darkness, a shiver ran down his spine. He swallowed as Hannah spoke, ignoring that instinct for something far more intangible.
Just follow my voice. We're staying a ways in.
With one step, his nose suddenly and violently filled with the most vile, acrid odor he'd ever smelled. He glanced back at the daylight fading from view as they plunged deeply into this abyss. Soon, Ethan found himself engulfed in total shadow, but consumed by intense heat. Sweat stung his suppressed eyes, triggering a vision. Recollection of those red pinpricks pulsated in Ethan's mind, allowing the feeling he'd brushed aside a chance to reach him. Finally unsettled in the dark, he reached for his phone. As Ethan tapped its flashlight and that illumination burst through the pipe, Hannah yelped and rushed forward out of sight.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't do this. I need to go. Wait, Ethan, where are you going?
Light swirled down, dust drifting through as a piercing sensation of fear drove straight to his core. In the divide between blinding white and inky darkness rested a pair of large, inhuman feet. Flesh charred and flaking. Scrapes trailed along the pipe's metal, terminating at motionless, gnarled obsidian claws. The dread that had slowly been filling his mind was instantly supplanted by unfettered terror. Before he could react, unseen hands struck his jaw ferociously, which slammed him to the ground. He lost grip of his phone, and briefly, fragments of a harrowing visage were cast in its stark glow. Its shuddering beam blinked across a burnt, rotting face, stretched tight over a slender, slimy red body that hunched forth from darkness, obscuring its true shape. When the phone landed, it plunged them once more into total shadow, save for two crimson pinpricks that gazed curiously into Ethan's very essence. He screamed out, shaking with despair as Hannah reached down and wrapped two sets of hands around the teen's legs.
Come on, Ethan. You'll be so happy with us. Free from your parents, free from their hatred. Just us. Together.
Hannah's voice echoed in the pipe, alongside heavy footfalls that dragged him deeper. He continued to writhe and shout, fighting hopelessly against four strong hands. As they went further, that daylight continued to shrink, and the heat engulfing this place became unbearable. Tears dripped over his cheeks, suddenly overcome with thoughts of his mom and dad. All he wanted was to be with them right now. He was close to being boiled alive as he kicked and screamed, but past Hannah, a faint whiteness slowly trickled into view. Confused, he glanced back to see the pipe's mouth, still fading away. He looked down again as strange, distorted noises grew louder and louder, while the pipe's rough, corrugated surface gradually smoothed out. It deafened him, Hannah's grip tightening, a symphony of distant sound overwhelming him. Howls of agony and languished moans. Discordant wails tormented Ethan, while the abyss devoured him, leaving the drain's open maw to once more bide its time